My name's Adam. I'm 30 years old, and up until not too long ago, I honestly believed I had a handle on how things worked in my family. Not the spoken stuff, more like the invisible rules. The kind you only notice once you've stepped out of line or felt them hit you like a truck. You know the type: don't ask for too much, don't outdo your sister, and for the love of God, never act like your emotions actually matter. I didn't always recognize it for what it was. Growing up in that kind of household, you just assume that's the norm. Like, birthdays? No big deal. If someone forgets something that means a lot to you, well, that's your fault for caring so much in the first place. You start to believe that getting overlooked is just part of growing up. That maybe love in your family looks a little different, quieter, more about actions than words. At least, that's what I used to tell myself whenever I got the short straw and Catherine, my younger sister, got the whole damn ribbon-cutting ceremony. It started off small. Subtle, really. When we were kids, her birthdays always had more buzz, more people, more decorations, more chances to take cute pictures for the photo album. Mine? I'd get a few cupcakes, maybe a promise to do something later that always quietly disappeared. Meanwhile, Catherine had balloons, party hats, hired entertainers, basically a kid's dream bash. I chalked it up to the whole younger sibling thing. I figured maybe back then, Mom and Dad still had energy to spare. But as we got older, nothing changed. If anything, the divide only grew wider. When Catherine turned 18, she got a brand new car with a giant bow on the hood. Me? I got a quick pat on the back and a framed baby photo I'd already seen hanging in the hallway for years. And as usual, I didn't complain. I was the expert at biting my tongue, at stuffing it all down deep enough that it stopped feeling real. But this year felt different. Or maybe I was the one who'd changed. I had just moved back to town after a few years away, trying to get my footing again after losing a steady design gig. The plan was to be closer to family, hoping maybe it would feel grounding, give me a bit of an emotional reset. Yeah, well, that didn't happen. I got home right in the middle of Catherine's birthday weekend blowout. 3 full days of celebration, and it honestly looked more like a wedding than a birthday. There were white tents in the backyard, a live band playing under twinkle lights, trays of catered food, sparklers in the lawn, even one of those cheesy photo booths with props. It felt like the entire neighborhood had shown up. My mom had on a brand new dress. My dad, who just had back surgery a few weeks earlier, was out there flipping burgers like he was hosting a block party. And Catherine? Catherine had a crown on. No joke, an actual sparkly crown. Nobody even noticed me walk through the gate until Catherine spotted me. "Oh," she said, like I just popped out of thin air. "Didn't think you'd be back so soon?" I gave a half shrug and smiled. Tried not to take it personally. "Got in this morning," I said. She gave a quick nod, then turned right back to her group of friends. I stood there a moment, waiting for someone to acknowledge me. Offer me a drink, ask how the drive was, something. But nope. Nothing. Eventually, I grabbed a soda and found a seat on the edge of the patio next to a folding chair that had some pink frosting smeared across it. That was her birthday. Mine came 2 weeks later. I wasn't expecting much. Actually, I wasn't expecting anything at all. But somehow it still managed to hit me in a place that hurt. I spent most of the day at the kitchen table, chipping away at some client revisions on my laptop while the rest of the house moved around me like it was any other ordinary Wednesday. Around 9 p.m., I got a single text in our family group chat. "Happy birthday, Adam." No emojis. No call. No knock on my door. 10 minutes later, my dad passed by on his way out to the garage and casually said, "Oh hey, there's some leftover pizza if you're hungry." I checked the fridge. Sure enough, greasy pizza box with 2 cold slices inside. One of them already had a bite taken out of it. That was my celebration. I didn't react right away. Just stood there with the fridge open, letting the chill wash over my face like it could numb something inside me. My chest felt tight, like my heart couldn't decide if it wanted to ache or just shut down completely. I took the box out, microwaved a slice, and sat at the kitchen table alone. A few minutes later, my mom walked in, carrying a basket of laundry. She paused when she saw me sitting there. "Oh," she said, sounding surprised. "Didn't know you were still up." Then she smiled, one of those light, dismissive ones, and added, "You're too old for all that birthday fuss anyway, right?" She meant it like a joke. I didn't laugh. Just gave a small nod, pushed the crust aside, and stood up. "Yeah," I murmured. "Too old for fuss." I went back to my room and started packing. It wasn't a rage-fueled exit. No yelling or slamming doors. It was quiet. Intentional. Almost clinical. I packed only the basics: my laptop, some clothes, a couple of sketchbooks I didn't want to leave behind. Didn't bother with the stuff I'd stashed in the garage or my tools in the basement. Didn't feel worth it. I left the half-eaten pizza on the counter, dropped my room key on the dresser, and stuck a little note to the fridge that simply said, "Thanks." Then I walked out. No big scene. No goodbye speech. I got in my car and drove. No clue where I was going at first, just needed to not be there. I ended up crashing at an old friend's place on the other side of town. We hadn't spoken in a year, but they let me crash on the couch without asking a single question. I turned my phone off before I could see if anyone had noticed I was gone. The next morning, I finally felt the ripple I'd left behind. My friend was making coffee when my phone lit up on the counter. 3 missed calls from Aunt Tyler. 1 voicemail. A follow-up text. "Why won't anyone tell me where you went? Your mom's crying. Catherine's freaking out. What happened?" I didn't respond. Not right away. In fact, I didn't reply to anyone. By noon, my phone was flooded with texts from every corner of the family. Some sounded desperate. "Adam, where are you? Just let us know you're okay." Others had that fake concern tone, the kind that feels more like PR than actual care. "Hey man, it's Catherine. Everyone's super worried. Can you just check in or something?" But the one that really got me? My mom's. "I don't know what I did to deserve this. You could have at least said goodbye." I almost laughed when I read that. She really didn't know. You know what really cut the deepest? It wasn't being left out. It wasn't Catherine getting all the attention. It was the feeling that I only existed to them when I was convenient, when I kept my head down or filled a need. The moment I stopped doing that, I became invisible. Or worse, an inconvenience. But now that I'd stepped away entirely, left the role they'd cast me in behind, suddenly there was a hole in the picture. Not because they missed me, but because they noticed the empty space where I used to stand quietly doing the unthanked things. I didn't go back that week. I couldn't. I crashed at Darren's place, camped out on his couch like I was trying to sleep off a lifetime of emotional jet lag. Told him I'd help clean, maybe cook a few meals, chip in however I could. He just waved it off and tossed me a spare key. "No rush," he said. "You're good here." And honestly, that kind of low-key decency? That hit harder than any birthday card I never got. We stayed up most nights watching dumb shows from high school or reminiscing about the band we used to think would make us famous back when our biggest gig was a neighbor's backyard barbecue. It was simple, easy, real. Meanwhile, my phone kept buzzing. Unanswered calls. Voicemails I didn't listen to. Catherine was busy posting vague, emotional Instagram stories, screenshots of breakup songs, dramatic black screens with white text like, "Be kind, you never know what someone's going through." My mom even posted some old photo of me as a toddler, captioned, "Miss you. Please come home." Wild, considering the woman didn't even remember to say happy birthday in person. But then something unexpected showed up. One afternoon, Darren tossed me a small envelope while flipping through the day's mail. "You got something," he said, raising an eyebrow. "Looks formal." I looked at it. Pale yellow, no return address. My full name on the front written in my mom's tidy, schoolteacher handwriting. No stickers. No cute message. No hint of what was inside. I stared at it for a moment. Honestly, I was expecting a guilt-ridden apology or maybe some passive-aggressive note about how families stick together. But when I opened it, there wasn't a letter at all. Just a single printed screenshot folded clean in half. At first, I didn't get it. Just a chunk of text bubbles. Then I spotted my name. It was a group chat. Not one I was in, this was a private side thread. My mom, Catherine, Aunt Olivia, and Aunt Lauren. The date? The night I walked out. I started reading and each message tightened something in my chest. Aunt Olivia, wait, did he seriously just leave? Catherine, typical Adam. Always making things about him. Mom, I don't even know what he expects from us. We let him live here for free and it's still not enough. Aunt Lauren, ungrateful. We've all had tough years. He's not special. Catherine again, he's 29, not 12. What does he want, balloons and a pony? I stared at that last one. A pony. That's what my entire birthday, my feelings, my absence, everything had been reduced to. A cheap punchline in a group chat. And it hit me, they didn't actually care that I was gone. They just didn't like the silence. They missed the version of me who kept quiet, kept paying, kept absorbing everything without ever making a scene. The one who nodded and said it's fine even when it very much wasn't. I folded the paper up slowly, slid it back into the envelope and placed it on the table like it was radioactive. "You all right?" Darren called from the kitchen. I didn't answer at first. Just opened my laptop. Started typing. Not to my mom. Not to Catherine. Not to any of the people who thought that tearing me down in private was just regular family banter. I emailed the family's accountant. Because here's the part no one ever talked about in those chats. I wasn't some freeloader crashing in my parents' house out of laziness. I'd been quietly covering their property taxes since Dad stopped working. I'd sent money every month toward the mortgage even when I was laid off. I paid off Catherine's credit card debt the summer she went on a shopping spree she couldn't afford. I even helped Aunt Olivia when her dog needed surgery. Never once asked for a thank you. I just did it because I thought that's what family did. But now? Now I was done. I froze the family account I'd been funding. Canceled all the auto payments tied to the mortgage. Called the vet and told them Aunt Olivia's balance was now her problem. Logged into every shared streaming service, Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, and disconnected their profiles. No more passwords. No more quiet support. Then I called the catering company that had handled Catherine's birthday bash because my mom had used my emergency credit card to pay for it. I paid the balance myself. Then I closed the card. It didn't take long for the chaos to start. 2 a.m. Catherine, what the hell, Adam? My gym membership's frozen. Did you actually cut me off? An hour later, a voicemail from Mom. Crying. Real tears this time. I just don't understand how you could do this to us. We're your family. You disappeared without a word, and now this? Now you're punishing us? What did we do to deserve this? I didn't reply. Not because I was out of words, trust me, I had a storm of them. But because I already knew how it would go. I'd be ungrateful. Cold. Making a big deal out of nothing. So for once in my life, I took a different route. I said nothing. And that silence? It echoed louder than any fight could have. By the end of the week, the family group chat was falling apart. My cousin Joan, who usually stayed far away from drama, messaged me privately. Hey, what's going on? Everyone's spiraling. Your mom's calling people nonstop. Catherine says you, sabotaged something? I thought you were just taking space. Sabotaged? That's the word they were using. To describe me no longer funding their comfort. I didn't reply to Joan either. Left the message on read on purpose. I knew how it would be spun. Adam isn't even responding to the nice ones now. But here's the truth. This wasn't about who was kind on the surface. It was about who stood by in silence while I was being slowly broken down. Who stayed quiet. Or worse, laughed. They all seemed stunned I'd finally walked away, but no one ever asked why I was fading in the first place. They watched me disappear, inch by inch, and said nothing. But now that I'd taken the final step, now that I wasn't just gone, but had removed them from my life entirely, that's when they started to panic. It took exactly 11 days. I remember because on the morning of day 11, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize at first. It was Uncle Austin, a name I hadn't heard in years. Austin wasn't the type to get mixed up in family messes. He kept his distance, lived a few states away, and skipped most holidays without excuses. Last time we spoke, I'd walked him through a Zoom tutorial during lockdown. So when I saw his name pop up, I was surprised enough to answer. Hello? I mumbled, still half asleep. Adam, he said, voice tight. Your mom's been blowing up my phone. Says the house is about to default. That true? I blinked at the ceiling. She's just now telling you that? There was a pause. Apparently, he said. Told me you bailed on the bills. Left without warning. I let out a slow breath. Did she mention the group chat? Another pause. Longer this time. What group chat? So I told him. Not every ugly detail, but enough to paint the picture. The birthday I was expected to forget. The cold pizza. The mockery behind my back. How I'd been footing bills for years while being treated like an afterthought. Austin didn't interrupt. He didn't defend them either. Just a quiet, stunned moment, then a low Jesus. You never brought any of this up? He asked gently. No one ever asked, I said. Not once. He sighed. Well, I can't say I'm shocked. They always figured you'd just keep eating it. He didn't tell me to forgive them. Didn't ask me to make peace or go back. He just said, if you get tired of your friend's couch, I've got a guest room. You're welcome anytime. Just letting you know. And that nearly cracked me open. Thanks, Austin, I managed, voice tight. Really? After we hung up, I sat there quietly, letting the stillness settle. It was the first time in days I didn't feel like I was bracing for impact. But peace never lasts long in my family. That afternoon, my mom took things public. She posted a blurry photo of me as a little kid, maybe 5 years old, holding a balloon with the kind of smile only children can manage before the world teaches them to brace for disappointment. The caption read, I don't know where I went wrong. I did my best. But some people choose distance over love. I miss my son. She tagged me. Of course she did. The comments came in like a flood. Aunts, cousins, church ladies I hadn't seen since grade school. All sending hugs, prayers, sympathy. A few even slid into my DMs asking why I was treating the woman who raised me this way. That's when it hit me, this wasn't about repair. This was about optics. They couldn't get to me in private, so they pivoted to public perception, casting me as the cold, heartless son who abandoned his poor mother. And people ate it up. But then one comment stood out in the middle of the pity parade. It was from Aunt Teresa, Dad's sister. She never weighed in on family drama. Always kept to herself. She wrote, "Maybe if you'd given him more than a leftover slice of pizza on his birthday, he wouldn't have left." No replies. No likes. Just that. But the silence that followed? It said everything. I stared at that screen for a long time, heart pounding, not from rage, but from something else. Relief. Validation. Someone saw it. Maybe not all of it, but enough. That evening, Catherine texted me again. It was a screenshot from her banking app. Balance, minus $47.93. Auto payment declined. Underneath, she wrote, "Hope it was worth it." And that's when I realized we weren't just dealing with hurt anymore. We'd crossed over into something darker. This wasn't about being wounded. This was about payback. They were trying to twist the story into some noble tale of abandonment and betrayal while I was sitting on years' worth of truth they didn't think I'd ever use. I hadn't just left with a backpack. I left with documentation. Receipts. Passwords. Copies of the things they counted on me to forget. I knew what Catherine owed on her car. I knew how many mortgage payments my mom had skipped. And I knew whose names were legally tied to all of it. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about getting free. I spent the next few days pulling together everything I needed. Not with anger. With focus. The kind of calm that comes after you finally accept that no apology is coming and maybe never was. I wasn't trying to destroy anyone. I was just done protecting people who would never protect me. That night, Darren walked in as I sat surrounded by documents, my laptop open, coffee table covered in folders and old statements. He handed me a mug. "Chamomile," he said. "Figured you needed something less explosive." I cracked a smile. "Appreciate it." He looked at the mess in front of me, then met my eyes. "You sure about this?" I nodded, staring down at Catherine's credit report and the deed to the house, still partially in my name. "They made me the backup plan for years," I said. "Time they learned what it's like without one." The first thing I did was call the bank. Back in 2020, when Dad lost his job, I co-signed on their second mortgage. They said it would just be a short-term thing. A temporary fix. Family helping family. But 5 years later, I was still financially tied to that house and still bailing them out. So I started the process to get my name off the loan. It wasn't easy. I had to send letters, gather payment records, explain everything in detail. Even pulled a favor from a client who worked in real estate law. But I had what I needed. Proof of who had really been keeping the lights on. Who paid the bills and who just accepted the help. Next, I emailed Catherine directly. Attached her latest credit card statement with one line in the message body. "This is yours now. Good luck." After that, I called Mr. Bryan, the family accountant. He's been handling our finances since before I was old enough to ride a bike, the kind of old-school guy who always had a jar of butterscotch candies on his desk and never missed a handshake. When I was a kid, I thought he was boring. Now, I realized he was one of the few adults who ever treated me like a person. "Mr. Bryan," I said over the phone, "I'm stepping back. Permanently. I won't be responsible for anything tied to the family trust anymore." He sounded surprised, genuinely so. "Adam, are you absolutely sure? This isn't a small decision." "I'm not just sure," I told him. "I'm done. They made their choices. Now I'm making mine." He didn't argue. Just said he'd get the paperwork started and that he hoped I found some peace. By the time the trust withdrawal was official, the family group chat had gone from cold shoulders to open fire. Someone had leaked the infamous group text, the one with all the jokes at my expense. Aunt Olivia finally saw it. And let's just say she didn't love being called dramatic in a thread she wasn't supposed to see. I didn't know who passed it along, but if I had to guess, my money was on Teresa. Either way, the cracks were showing. The emotional guilt posts? Drying up. Catherine's Instagram? Quiet as a grave. Still, not a single phone call. No real apology. No accountability. Just the occasional shady caption and vague Facebook pity post. Things didn't really implode until the foreclosure notice hit the mailbox. The bank had reviewed my petition and the trail of payments I'd submitted, years of covering bills without recognition. And since I was no longer paying and they were months behind already, the foreclosure process officially kicked in. That's when my dad called. We hadn't spoken since Christmas. And even then, all he said was, "Pass the potatoes." "Adam," he said, voice rough like gravel. We need to talk. I was standing in Darren's kitchen, phone on speaker, arms crossed. I'm listening. They're saying we might lose the house. I'm not doing that, I said calmly. I'm just not paying anymore. Big difference. You're being vindictive, he snapped. Over what, a birthday? I actually laughed. Couldn't help it. This was never about a birthday, Dad. This is about years of being treated like an afterthought until you needed something. We're your family, he shot back like that word was supposed to fix everything. No, I said, steady and quiet. You're people who couldn't be bothered to buy me a cake. And now you want me to bail you out? Again? He didn't speak for a second. Then, you're gonna regret this. I shook my head. No. I regret not doing it sooner. Then I hung up. That week, the stories started bleeding into the public. Catherine posted a long-winded caption under a photo of the house, dramatic lighting, autumn leaves, the whole thing staged like a Hallmark movie. Words like betrayal, rebuilding, and starting over were sprinkled in like confetti. She didn't mention me, but it wasn't hard to read between the lines. The comments were a mixed bag. Some praised her for being strong through adversity. Others asked what happened. But a few clearly knew the backstory. And Teresa? Teresa dropped the mic. Maybe if you treated your brother with half the grace you expect from strangers, this wouldn't have happened. It got over 300 likes before Catherine quietly deleted the comment. That weekend, I drove out to Uncle Austin's. His house was nothing fancy, one-story, quiet neighborhood, a little overgrown in the back, but it felt safe. We drank coffee in silence, watched a baseball game neither of us cared about. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could just be. No expectations. No questions. No keeping the peace while bleeding on the inside. Weeks passed. Then months. I got a new apartment not far from Austin's place. Picked up a contract gig that gave me steady work. Even met someone, Ella, a photographer with calloused hands and a soft laugh. She liked bitter coffee and early morning hikes and didn't flinch when I told her about my family. That sounds like a lot, she said once after I told her more than I planned to. Then she added, I'm glad you walked away. She didn't offer advice. She didn't try to fix it. She just listened. And that was enough. Then, one afternoon in late September, a letter arrived in my mailbox. No return address. Inside, a simple birthday card. Store-bought. Blue. No printed message, just a crisp $20 bill tucked inside. And one sentence written in tight, careful cursive. I was wrong. But I don't know how to fix it. It was from my mother. I didn't reply. Because here's what happens when you're treated like a background character in your own life for too long. You start believing you're supposed to be there, quiet, low maintenance, grateful for scraps. You learn to shrink yourself down. To bend. To mold. To smile through bruises no one even knows are there. Until one day, you finally snap. Quietly. Cleanly. And no one notices until you're gone. But I noticed. And I left. And I'm not going back, not for guilt, not for tradition, not even for a handwritten apology taped to a $20 bill. Because the best gift I ever gave myself wasn't a party or a present. It was finally choosing me. And this year? That's what I'm celebrating.